Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the live panel Where Will Finance, Analytics and Operations Take Me? I'm Kelvin Cher, a Year 4 BAC accountancy student specializing in finance. With me in this session, I have Professor Yo Wee Yong from the Department of Finance, Professor Mark Goh from the Department of Analytics and Operations, Ms. Teresa Ong from the BIS Careers Office, and as well as Benjamin Yeo, who is a Year 4 student specializing in finance and operations. So in this session, we'll be looking at exploring how our specializations equip students towards their various career pathways, specifically in the areas of finance and analytics and operations. So I'm sure you have many burning questions, so do keep your questions coming in our Facebook Live comment section so that we can answer as many as we can. So to start off, maybe we can ask our panelists, tell me more about your specialization and how it relates to real-world business problems. Maybe Prof. Yu can start first.
Sure. Okay, so my specialization is in finance, and so finance deal with a lot of things like, for example, we have 3 core finance modules, corporate finance, investment analysis, and financial markets. So this will lay the foundation of the finance discipline. Then after that, you can add modules, electives such as international financial management, bank management, derivatives, and things like that. So is to prepare students for the finance industry. Finance is one of the fastest growing industry in Singapore and all over the world as well. So we want to prep students for that industry, and there are a lot of opportunities out there. There are so many financial institutions, and so we really want to give students the best so that they can make it out there.
Hey, Prof. Mark.
Okay, good. Wow, that's a very long statement by my colleague, right? But in DAO, we are driven basically by analytics. As you know, the term A stands for analytics, and it's important because today we live in a world of data, and a lot of analysis needs to be done. And if you do analytics, I can tell you, in the next 3 to 5 years, definitely get a job, right? So there's no issue about that. The other part, of course, is the O part, which is operations. As you know, every company, we need operations, and now for operations it's very hard to actually sell anything. So in Singapore, at the heart of every factory, every service organization, operations is involved, and within operations we have also the other key component, which is supply chain, right? And as you know, Singapore is a hub for supply chains, and we are growing that part, as you can see in the press. So we are proud to say that we actually service and supply a lot of good students into the industry.
So NUS Business School is very unique in the sense that we have a BIS Career Office right at our Mokhtar Radi building. So Ms. Teresa Ong, maybe you can share with us how does BIS Careers value add to the students? How do they come in to help students find internships or full-time jobs?
Okay, so for BIS Careers, we actually have a 4-year strategic roadmap that's prepared for you if you were to join us right here. So in year 1, we'll start you off with our career creation program. So you will be going through career planning, personal branding, networking, CV crafting, as well as interviewing skills. Right, this is just to lay the foundation and for you to explore the industries that you might be considering other than finance or operations, depending on where you like to join. And in year 2, you will join the career advisor of your choice. We take care of more than 40 industries between the 6 of us. So you will sit in the class with 5 other students to be taught how do you craft your CV specifically for a finance internship, for example, and also to prepare for your interviews. And then apart from all that, you will have a lot of recruitment events to attend, right? As well as if you have certain questions and you really want to reach out to someone, we have one-to-one counseling sessions to answer these questions for you.
Thanks. So for Benjamin, you're a student specializing in both finance and operations. So walk us through what are your thoughts and how did you arrive at this decision to specialize in both?
Yeah, so for myself personally, I chose finance because I feel that, especially for NUS Business Finance, it covers a range of segments in the finance industry. The industry is very broad. It covers private banking, asset management, investment banking, transaction banking. So NUS Finance module specifically caters to every different segment in the industry, and that's somebody like me who wants to find, his way in this industry. I think that's very useful. As for operations, I agree with Prof. Mark in the sense that analytics is so important nowadays. People are using Python, Tableau, Oracle, and NUS Business School, it teaches you these skill sets which are definitely important in the industry in the coming years. So I think that's my main reason for choosing these 2 specializations, because of the rigor that it has. Yeah.
So we have two questions now from Denise and Lim, which is pretty interrelated. So they are asking, does a second major in economics or a second specialization in maybe accountancy complement well with finance? So we have it.
Yeah, definitely. I think accountancy, finance, economics, they are kind of related. If you have, but you know, in our foundation module, we already have accountancy. So we have enough accountancy for finance students to be able to understand what accounting is all about. And we do economics in our program as well. So all these are taught in the first 1 to 1.5 years, which lay the foundation for them to build the finance specialization. So if you want to learn more in economics and accounting, definitely you can do that as well. So it depends on which area you want to go to. And which discipline will benefit you. So business school is very flexible, so it allows you to choose and whichever kind of tailor-made program that you want. So to beef up your CV, to increase and to make you stronger in the area that you want to be strong at, so that you can shine in the industry.
So personally for me, I'm also doing an accountancy program as well on top of finance. So I would say that finance and accountancy complements each other very well, because having a solid foundation in accountancy helps you to understand the financial statements in a very deep manner as compared to some of our other peers who don't specialize in accountancy. But however, having said that, accountancy is not for everyone. So not everyone enjoys the kind of academic or very calculation-based, fact-based kind of work that you do in accountancy. So maybe perhaps you can try it out in your first year, the level 1K accountancy module, see how well you like it, and perhaps whether this is something you want to do going forward, especially with more advanced modules as well. So moving on to next questions. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about, because finance is a long-standing specialization in business school. So how does the school ensure that the skills that students learn are still relevant, especially in today's ever-changing world?
Okay, that is a very important question that we always ask ourselves. So we normally will survey the industry to see where the demand is, and we change our offering, especially the electives, to fit into what the industry needs. For example, in the past I teach a course in investment banking, but now investment banking, they are not employing that many students, but we see that private banking is growing. So we're beefing up things like private banking. I'm offering a new course in consumer banking, wealth management, which is kind of private banking. And we're doing much more with the industry, corporate industry, to give offerings of elective that the industry really need, so that students will be able to get a head start in the job that they want to go to. So we are always on the lookout. Trust us, we are always on the lookout, and we want to give students our best.
So I think one of the most frequently asked questions for the analytics side is, what kind of skills are students equipped with their business analytics specialization at NUS Business School vis-a-vis the computing side, school of computing?
Okay, that's a very good question. I guess later Ben can chip in and answer that question also. Like what Ben mentioned earlier on, that you actually learn a suite of skills, whether it's Tableau, Python and so on. And these are all very handy, because when you go out to work, you're already ready, work ready in that sense, right? And so that's important. And we actually walk, we walk you through actual cases. So we are also very case driven, and some of the cases you see in class are actually related to this region and practiced by companies. So in that sense, I think there's no concern, at least from us, that you cannot deliver on the job.
So maybe Ms. Teresa Ong, maybe you can share a bit more about the kind of career pathways that perhaps some graduates in NUS would typically go into.
I guess when it comes to finance as well as analytics and operations, definitely the banks, in terms of the international banks, the local regional banks, right, and your investment management firms are the ones that's looking for internships as well as your graduates. So we have a huge range of roles in banks, right? We have your back office, your middle office, your front office, right? Of course, the most popular and most competitive roles would be your investment banking roles. And I think in terms of planning-wise, if let's say I would recommend first year would be the time to explore, right? If let's say you're thinking I definitely want to start work in a bank, but how do I prepare myself, right? So in year one, during the modules, we will already prepare you for it, but your exploration will be through your internships to find out what's best for you.
So moving on to Benjamin. So what are your thoughts on how finance and operation is being taught in NUS? Is there anything in particular that stands out?
In my opinion, NUS provides you with not only the tools, but how to use the tools. If you provide equipment to a worksmith, he can't craft the tools because he doesn't know how. And NUS does that very well. For example, for operations, as Prof. Mark mentioned, they teach us Python, they teach us Tableau, but they also teach us the strategy of how to use it. We do case studies, we learn the different news affairs that come up, how companies implement new systems. And I think these examples are very useful for me, someone who wants to conceptualize how to use the tools that NUS has given me. Yeah.
So we have another question from Lim. So he asked, what are some of the skills that people in the finance industry look out for, and perhaps maybe how do NUS complement it?
I think in finance, very importantly, you have to have the quantitative skills, but it may not be really rocket science and very advanced maths. As long as your quantitative skill in JC or in Poly is okay, that should satisfy the requirement. But what is more important is the conceptualization. So you need to know how the world works. You need to be able to, tell from current events, how the world come together. So read widely and be able to tell, how the different industry, why one thing happened leads to another, and why the market is in turmoil now, what led to that, and all these things should be very important. So we try to give students all the means and ways to try to survey the market, to understand how the world works, so that when they come to their job, right, they will be very good at it. Because in finance, you cannot work in silo, right? You cannot just do your own job and don't care about what the other department does. That's why we have crisis after crisis. So what we need to do is have a general view, a wide view, so that we understand, what we do, how it affects others, and how what others do affect us as well. So we try to give students a broad perspective and link all things together so that they can be a well-rounded finance individual.
So moving on to Prof. Mark, maybe you can share a bit more about the kinds of projects that a student can expect to work on.
Okay, well, I guess when you say our projects, we have a whole suite of them actually, and the actual projects. Give an example. Last semester, we had a group of students working with big oil companies such as letter C, and they're looking at helping the company to set up technology to measure the input and the efficiency of all their drum fields. Right, that's a practical problem, and the company was very happy after the group actually did it. And in that group itself, only one person probably had some of the technical skills. The rest, they picked it out, like what Prof mentioned just now, and that is to read widely. They read widely, they implemented the system, right? That's what Wiyang was talking about, and that's what we expect our students to do. And the results that they gave to the company was actually interesting, excellent, because the company was so impressed that they're actually going to roll the system not just in Singapore but also in Malaysia. So that, I think, shows and attests to the value that our students add to the companies, to industry around the region.
Alright, so maybe Benjamin also, you can share a bit more some of the projects that you personally did, adding on to what Prof. Mark mentioned.
Yeah, so for myself, a lot of the projects that I've done more towards learning about the different companies and their business model. And I think this is very important for someone who is very young like me, who reads a lot about the news, a lot of the companies and how much money they make, but we don't really know how the business model works. So by learning how the companies, operate, and how even myself can lend our skills to these companies, I think that really taught me why these companies are so successful. And I think that's another good thing about the projects we take, because we take a lot of projects that really allow us to go very in-depth, and we take a very data-driven quantitative analysis at them. And I think that really led me to really understand both the finance and operations industry much more better in that sense. Yeah.
So maybe just moving on to Prof. Leo. So I think one question that a lot of people have in mind is what kind of people usually specialize in finance? What kind of traits do you see in these people?
Okay, so I think on average, about 55 to 60% of students will major or specialize in finance. Finance is a very fast-moving industry, and the demand for talents is very high, and of course they pay very well as well. So that's why a lot of students, more than half the students, want to specialize in finance. So these students are more aggressive, they are more proactive, they want to make it big in the finance industry. So ambitious, ambitious, yes, but also with some humility in them as well. So for those who want to excel in the finance industry, you want to work in a bank, financial institution, yeah, so these are the students who want to specialize in finance. You don't have to be afraid of the quantitative skills that you need, because it's not just quant, right? The math because a lot of students will be very afraid, if my math is not good, can I major in finance? But I think if you do relatively well in JC, in Poly, in math, I think that should be enough. As I said just now, the more important thing is the conceptualization, how you understand the products, how you understand what these product does in the industry. So that is more important.
And also just to add on, I think you don't have to be too afraid about what to specialize in, especially in your first year, because you're still trying out and you get to really try out different modules from all kinds of baskets within the business world. So just don't be too afraid about having to decide what specialization, especially at the onset of university. So I think one of the things that a lot of people are afraid of when it comes to business analytics and also operations is the technical skills involved. So perhaps you can elaborate
Well, actually, let me just jump in here and say that it's not so much the technical skills. Like what Wyong mentioned just now is that, yes, we need a certain basics, that's true. But more important in analytics, you need to communicate well, right? The findings, what Ben mentioned rightly, and they say that, look, numbers are numbers, but if you don't tell the person what the meaning behind the numbers are like, then they will never appreciate how to take action, right? And that's why we talk about beyond the predictive, we talk about the prescriptive part of it, right? And that's important, right? So that's where I think you come into the school as students, yeah, you get a fresh breath of courses they can choose from. You can decide a whole semester, and if not, there'll be seniors to help you and also professors around to advise you and suggest to you. And then you can try dirty your hands by working closely with companies and actual projects and see what you like. Right? And we have cases of students who have worked with companies, and after a while, actually, the companies, before they finish a project, will offer them and say, do you want to join us in that sense? And I think that's a good testimony to say that, look, the students have added value, learned something, and the companies have found value in the students, right? And that's important.
So since we are almost towards the tail end of our segment here, maybe you can end off with Benjamin sharing a bit more about some advice you want to give to prospective students interested in finance or operations or just coming to NUS in general.
In my opinion, NUS is a place that really gives you a lot of tools. So I would say come in with an open mind, come in and really take your time and find your footing, because not everyone comes into school and they know what they want to do. So maybe take the first year to really try out different modules and try to find your passion, and I think eventually, you'll get there.
Yeah, totally agree with Ben. So just come in with an open mind, try to grab as many opportunities as you can, especially since there's a lot, aside from just modules, there's a lot of also interest groups. Like for example, if you're interested in business analytics, then there's the business analytics consulting team. If you're interested in finance, there's a ton of finance CCAs such as Investment Society, Asset and Wealth Management Club, and etc. So do get your feet wet into all these CCAs to really figure out what you're interested in. So with that, time is catch up with us. So unfortunately, that's as much as we can cover for this session. But not to worry, as mentioned, there will be several more live programs lined up. So stay tuned for our next sessions, starting about 10 minutes time for those who are interested, especially in accountancy. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good.